welcome and thank you for coming to this UK Automation Forum event. My name is Gail Hunt. I work for Automate UK, and the UK Automation Forum is the brainchild of Automate UK, which is designed to bring together stakeholders, educators, all kinds of industry experts to discuss key topics in industry right now, skills of course being one of them, a really important one. And we hope that as an independent facilitator, we're not political in any way, we're not flogging you anything, we're not doing anything like that. We're actually hopefully just discussing the issue, and hopefully you'll be able to take away a few learnings from the event today. This is our fourth event. I think we've been at the MTC, we've been at MAC, we'll be at the PPMA show in September. So today, I'm just making sure I get my wording correct. We are discussing how do we bridge the skills gap in UK manufacturing. Hopefully we're going to be able to answer that question for you. Before we start, I'm going to introduce you to our expert panel. And as Anton Deck would say, in no particular order, I'm going to start with Oliver at the end.
Good morning everyone, my name is Oliver Selby. I'm Head of Sales at FANUC UK, the industrial conservation equipment supplier to UK and global industry. Yeah, happy to be on the panel today. Thank you.
Sorry, yes.
Chris Room, Business Development Director for MTC Trading. We've currently got 700 apprentices on the programme through years 1 to 4, with another 500 starting next year.
Mike.
Hi everyone, Mike Loughran. I'm a Director of Rockwell Automation for the Intelligent Devices Software and Control position.
Good morning, my name is Mike Wilson. I'm Chief Automation Officer at the MTC, and I'm also Chair of the UK Automation Forum.
Wouldn't be a panel without a technical hit, Jordan.
Okay, I'll just chill. So
No.
I'm Phil Webb, grow with each day. At this point, hi. Oh, it's great. Okay. I'm Phil Webb from Cranfield University. I hold the Royal Academy of Engineering and Airbus Chair in Industrial Robotics and Assembly, and I've had 30 plus years of experience in teaching and researching into robotics and automation.
Okay, so I think I'll agree we've got a great panel for you. And obviously it's interesting to note that in the current general election for Raw, there's been a lot of chat about apprenticeships and let's get rid of dodgy degrees and have apprenticeships. Let's skip the levy because it's not putting money in the right place for young people. And this is certainly something that maybe the panel will touch on. But hopefully this will be more civilised. So first of all, I'm going to start off, and I'm going to actually start with Oliver at the end about what impact skill shortages are having on businesses right now in the UK.
I think from my point of view there, speaking to many different businesses I do, certain industries are finding the right skills of people, and some are not finding the right skills of people. One of the challenges that we see is that automation adoption generally is not being taken up in the UK. Against our European or global counterparts, other countries are doing better in terms of educating young people and ensuring they understand the benefits of automation to their businesses. Challenges here in the UK are things like welding. We have to do for fabrications, for manufacturing. We can't find enough welders, can't find enough people in food and beverage, making sure the business case for their businesses are correct. So yeah, in some industries we're finding young people coming through, say, different paths to education, but we don't necessarily have is the right skills in enough young people. And what we see is that more and more young people are being promoted through apprenticeship type skills from their actual employers. So we see the likes of, say, big employers like Amazon or Cummins Engines putting people through degrees that's going to benefit them in the long run, benefit those businesses in the long run.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I think as well, Oliver touched on a good point there with welding as one example. I think what used to happen was companies would take on apprentice welders and they'd stay welding for the rest of their careers. I think now young people want to carry on learning and developing as they go through their careers. They might start off as a welder, but then they want to do the next thing and the next thing and carry on that development. So we need to make sure that there's the right pathways to kind of make sure people coming through have the skills for today and for tomorrow and keep on pushing through in terms of their career aspirations.
Thank you. Mike?
But yeah, I mean, I agree with the guys so far. But I'd say, there's a gap between the expectation of companies and what's coming out of schools, colleges, universities, and that gap does not seem to be decreasing. It seems to be getting wider. The problem with that is it's really stifling innovation. If people don't have the skills, they're not going to put any of these great new technologies you can see around the show floor or anything else, because there's no one to do it for them, and that's really going to affect UK PLC. So I think we do need to start to address this in a very quick and proper manner. Now, apprenticeships, I think, are great. I was an apprentice. I think we need to do more of that, because I think there's still an expectation that graduates will do everything. They will do some things, but I think if you want to get real stickiness and grow people who know your business, I think we need to look at apprentices and really promote that as being a great way of getting into industry and manufacturing.
Okay, as Mike Wilson has just pointed out, there's two mics on the panel. What are the chances? Mike, second Mike.
I suppose just to add to that, which is kind of looking at it from a slightly different perspective, one of the challenges we do have today is getting people into manufacturing, because there's still that perception, particularly within the school system, that manufacturing's dirty, it's horrible, it's not the kind of place that people want to work. And the use of technology actually is the one thing that can potentially address that. And I'm fairly old these days, and I didn't have a mobile phone when I was a lad. We didn't even have calculators. But the school kids today are coming through. They're used to technology. They're brought up with computers. They're brought up with mobile phones, and they expect to have that kind of technology in their working environment. So we've got to provide the right kind of working environment to attract them into manufacturing, and that means we need to be using the technology, and therefore we need to address the supply chain and address the challenges of getting that technology into our working environment. So there's a flip side, if you like, in terms of the need for the skills to apply the technology, but also then the technology then attracts the skills for the future.
Anything to that?
Yeah, I think we're... Can you hear me? Good. Okay. Yeah, I think take a slightly different view of it, in that, the other panelists have mentioned the important side of this sort of, delivery side of the sort of academic and educational chain for automation engineers. But we also have our own skills shortage of people with the skills and sort of personal skills and knowledge to actually teach the subject. And it's becoming increasingly difficult to find good people who can teach well. And so, I think we have to be much more open about, overseas hires, etc., because that, to me, is becoming a blocker to provide the people that you guys need.
Thank you. That's an interesting point that probably the politicians won't agree with. But okay, so we've talked about the impact. I'm assuming we skirted over the fact that the impact is bad. It's bad. We want more people in. So I'm saying, is it impacting the ability of firms to adopt new technologies, robotics, and automation? Are you finding that? I'm going to do a different order this time. I'm going to go to the first mic. Is it impacting Rockwell?
Is it impacting Rockwell? Yes, because it's impacting our customers. We're a manufacturer as well as a supplier to multiple manufacturing and consultants to them. And the feedback we get is because typically in the UK we have a lot of legacy equipment, but we're also adopting newer technologies. So the skill set required goes from something that's 35 plus years old to something that's 6 months years old. Who looks after that? So that gap of knowledge of people retiring it is really impacting it. So they look at, should we invest? Should we invest in the UK because we're struggling for skill set, we're struggling for people? And because of that, it impacts investment. That's a fact. But actually, when you do look at it, a number of companies are now looking at the new technology and saying, how can it get over the skills shortage? How can we capture the skills and actually training people from a much more diverse background. So they're not just looking for engineering graduates, they're looking for science graduates, technology graduates from different parts of academia, and saying, hey, could you apply your knowledge and skills there with technology to give us a better output? So I think there's positives there, but we do have to think outside the box.
Okay, thank you. Oliver?
Yeah, I completely agree with Mike that, as I said before, the skill sets that we see people being trained sort of from are coming from a much more diverse background. We see companies commit to a large number of apprentices generally. That has decreased over the last few years, where obviously we've been going through some sort of financial difficulties since obviously COVID and Brexit and everything else. But they are being drawn in from much more a wider, diverse, broad range of businesses. That's really beneficial because you get not only obviously their sort of new learning once they've obviously gone through an apprenticeship or through their upskilling. You'll get also their academic knowledge from other industry, which is hugely important. So I completely agree with Mike there that you do see that.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, on the diversity side of things, I think that has been some really good work done over the last few years. However, I think there's still quite a bit of work to be done. I think the larger organisations have provided the headway for that, but I think smaller organisations are struggling to both attract and to kind of how to work that through into their organisations. So I think maybe there's work that larger organisations can do with their supply chain to help that attraction and help retain those with a diverse background as well to help with innovation.
Okay, thank you. Because you look around these halls right now, and it's not the most diverse event you're ever going to probably visit.
Just look at the panel. Guys.
Yes, and look at the panel. I'm the token woman. Anyway, Mike, what do you think?
Well, actually, I was going to talk about that. We do need to find ways of attracting a much more diverse cohort, if you like, into manufacturing generally. And again, technology is a vehicle that enables that. If anybody hasn't had a look, go and have a look at the Vector Robotics stand. I'm a great advocate of that particular business, which is a charity, and they actually develop or run schools robot competitions. And it gets from primary school to secondary school, gets the children engaged in technology. And the one thing I would stress is it's very diverse. It's a 50-50 balance. It's not boys by any means. And the girls are really excited, they do participate, and a lot of them do very, very well at it. We just need to find ways of, once they've gone through that, is how we keep them in the education system still to come through to become engineers and to work in manufacturing. And that's probably the next big challenge, is how we ensure that the people going on to the apprentices, and I know Chris could probably talk about this, having experience of MTC, as to how many girls we do get as apprentices, and there's quite a few of them do very, very well. They tend to be the ones that win the awards. So it's worth bearing in mind, we need to get better balance coming through the system.
Okay.
Yeah, just to pick up on the point about diversity, I think there's more diversity in robotics than in automation. I mean, my own department, I'm very proud of the fact that we are actually 50-50 male-female split, which in an engineering department is quite unusual. But I think robotics in itself is quite good at attracting a broad cross-section into that field. It's probably how people then leverage that to get these people enthused about the manufacturing sector. And I think a lot of that is about, the technologies. I think it's chicken and egg. As more technology gets into the manufacturing sector, as that's more recognised, then I hope that this sort of existing people coming into robotics as a robotics subject will be drawn into manufacturing.
Okay, thank you. Well, certainly the Xbox generation are not averse to programming a robot. So I'm going to ask now, surely automating repetitive and laborious tasks allows existing staff, with all staff shortages, you can then upskill people surely, and to these tasks that are harder to fill. Are you finding that, Oliver, with your customers?
Yes, certainly. It's been the case for a long, long time that those customers that employ robots don't lose those people. Generally, we see them upskilled. Robots don't take people's jobs. One thing I will add there is that going forward, we want those people that are sort of, say, displaced within their businesses by robotics to upskill maybe into a slightly different strain of engineering, if you want to call it that, in that they look at the business case for future higher adoption of robotics. I think one of the things that's sometimes missing is that we want to upskill people into roles that add huge value to their business, but there's not necessarily at the moment any courses or work being done to upskill those people into the drivers for automation. They're generally just upskilled to maintain or look after the equipment they've been say employed or upskilled to look after. So I think doing some more work, say with universities, with AMTC, I think we can also support, say, that future upskilling to ensure that we've got the right people who may be displaced in higher value roles within automation.
Okay, Cranfield, we can talk about that when next.
Yes, I think actually building on the skills and actually getting the people out of sort of more manual labour and into more skilled jobs is probably an important thing that we should, as academics and educators, should be focusing on. And we are working hard in that area as a sector, particularly around robotics, with the level 6 apprenticeships and level 7 apprenticeships to provide a career path, and also below that at the more sort of technician apprenticeships. So yeah, a lot of work to be done in that space.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Yeah, and as Oliver said, I think the argument, the accusation of automation taking people's jobs has been there since the first PLC was invented, kind of thing, right? What we're actually seeing now, though, is a flip side. It's actually, we're getting more and more people saying we need to automate more because we can't get the people for certain tasks. And one that's come up in the last year, forklift truck drivers. People can't get people to do forklift truck driving, to take it from the dock to the line. People are just not interested, don't want to do it, can't be bothered. Working on the line, great, plenty of people. But doing that part of it, no. So actually, it's becoming a necessity. Otherwise, the people aren't there to do it. So there's going to be certain areas that just need to be automated. Now, where it doesn't maybe impact a job, I'm with Oliver all the way here, upskill those people because they know your plant. They know how it works, they know where everything goes. So upskill them. Give them the next skill set and keep them loyal to you, and you'll keep them for years. So again, it's a win-win situation.
So it's as important to train your existing staff as try and recruit.
We're looking at it from the recruitment side of things as well, in terms of, so at the moment there's a lot of organisations looking for multi-skilled maintenance people, where there's lots of mechanically skilled maintenance people available. So we're looking to develop the course pathways to take those that are mechanically skilled to widen that recruitment pool for some of these organisations, so they can look at it and go, right, okay, we can take someone with the right attitude and behaviours and who knows the mechanical side of things and upskill them from day one in terms of the automation and the electrical side of things to help retain those staff as well. Because if you invest in people from day one, you've got more chance of being able to retain them, and it stops that continual battle of competing for people by raising salaries. So I think that's vital as we move forward to carry on looking at how we can use skills to help recruit as well as retain talent into an organisation.
Thank you. Mike West.
So I was just going to give you an example of a company that we've been working with and actually has sat with us on this panel. It's Walsall Wheelbarrow. They're over in Wolverhampton, ironically, not Walsall. But the guy who runs that business, they started looking at robots probably about 10 years ago, and they've got about 20 robots in their factory now. And they're the largest wheelbarrow, the only wheelbarrow manufacturer in the UK. They've got 60% of the market. And they've got as many robots in their factory as they've got people. They have not made anybody redundant. They use the workforce to do the tasks that the automation cannot do, where they need the skills. And the workforce has become or has been upskilled. They become the machine minders, become the programmers. They look after the machines. And the whole point is they've generated a very successful business that went through the pandemic and all the rest of it. They did very well out of the pandemic because nobody else could bring wheelbarrows into the country. So they were cleaning up. And they're making something like 3,000 wheelbarrows a week. Now, most people in the UK think that we don't make things like wheelbarrows anymore because that's basic product. That comes in from China or the Far East somewhere. Well, they're a very successful business. They're doing very well at it, and they've done it through a policy of saying we will automate the things that we can automate. We'll upskill the existing workforce. We don't make people redundant. We all work together to make this business more successful. And my, if you like, request is almost we just need to get more of our SME businesses doing exactly that, because I kind of work on the principle that if a wheelbarrow manufacturer from Wolverhampton can do it, then there's an awful lot of SMEs out there that can do exactly the same. And if Jonathan was here, Jonathan Thacker, who's one of the owners, he would say exactly the same thing. It's a great example of what can be done by working with the workforce, getting their input and giving them better jobs as a consequence of employing the automation.
I think one of the interesting things that Jonathan talked about as well is that it's a family firm, so they've put their money in. They did get some support, I think some financial support, but his sons are super excited about having robots in the factory. So he's really thrilled about that in terms of the family business continuing and then not moving elsewhere getting the youngsters. Maybe they're not most excited by wheelbarrows, but the robots are certainly helping them to deal with the business. So how do we address these shortages? So wise ones on this panel. I'm going to start off with the other mic, because I'm now pulling you.
Yeah, I've been called a few things. That's not a bad one. Yeah, how would you start addressing it? I don't think there's one single silver bullet that's going to do it. But the one thing I have seen work in other countries, which I think we could do better, we're starting to do it, is get a lot more partnerships between companies, local colleges, schools, and universities, but also kind of getting involved in the local community. Because when you start bringing those things together, people will want to go work at those facilities. They'll know about it, they'll know it's a great place to go, it's a great career. When they don't, attracting people into manufacturing can be hard. I have two daughters, both about to go into the workplace, and they just didn't even consider engineering, even though I kept badgering, probably that was why. But where they get involved with, and they've had part-time jobs and things like that, they get more interested in it. So actually, if you can start to support the local companies by giving them the right skills who want to come to them and offering them the right training and support training, could be daily release or whatever else, then you can have a much better success rate. We can't leave it to others and say, oh, well, I'm sure the technical culture will do it for me. No, you've got to reach out, you've got to support them. And I've found where there's a partnership, where people give work experience, where people say, I'll come along to the college and talk around manufacturing, I'll talk around engineering, I'll introduce them to schools, get involved in STEM. There's a much better success rate. But I think we still have a long way to go to link STEM to manufacturing. I think it goes missing a little bit in the secondary schools, is my experience. Great with the kids, great with robots. Hits secondary, goes and miss somewhere, unfortunately, and then picks back up again when we come into kind of sixth form in university if they do engineering. So I think partnerships for me has got to be the key thing moving forward, so it's a win-win for everybody.
Thank you. Chris, I know you're working on things at the MTC.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the things that we do need to do is create more role models for young people to aspire to be like. I think if you look at one of the industries that doesn't struggle to take on apprentices, you look at the F1 companies, they get probably 50, 60 applicants per apprentice opportunity. So, and that's because people know about the opportunities in F1. We need to kind of tell people and help them understand the opportunities that are there for them in terms of engineering and manufacturing in the UK and what those career pathways look like, and some of the people that have been through that and tell their stories. And that's why we at the MTC are really keen to push our apprentices in terms of awards and that side of things. So we had 3 of the first 10 winners of the Best of British at the Ingenuity Awards, for example, and we will shout about them to the schools so that they understand that, you know, they get that recognition. So I think that's really important to get those young people interested, keep them interested, and take them on those same pathways.
Thank you, Oliver. I know you deal a lot with young people in the business.
Yeah, so I completely agree with Mike and Chris's comments there, and obviously we need to make sure the right skills are being delivered from industry into education to then deliver into those young people as the employable skills that employers are looking for. And with Chris's comment there about making role models, I think F1 is an absolutely fantastic example, and there are companies here in the UK like Denford who deliver the F1 in schools competition. They're fantastic at motivating young people to ensure that they've got something to aim for. The F1 in schools competition has about 1.3 million people globally, or competitors globally per year, feed into that competition, which is unbelievable. If you think about it, 1.3 million young people have a go at F1 in schools. If we can latch onto something like that, maybe within UK business, that would be a fantastic way to inspire young people. FANUC, we also sponsor globally the World Skills Competition for industrial robotic integration, and that, like F1 in schools, has got thousands of young people globally competing to ensure their skill sets are right for those future employers. I think together, like Chris has said, making sure we've got the right role models within industry from a diverse, broad range of people is a vital way forward.
Thank you. Okay, Mike, also anything to add?
I'm going to, at risk of repeating myself, I mentioned Vex Robotics earlier, I'll get the plug in again. But I think the key for them is it's a schools robot competition, but they need engagement from businesses. Schools don't have lots of money. It's not expensive, we're talking hundreds, not thousands of pounds, but schools can't afford it. Local businesses, as Mike was saying, if they can engage with their local school, there are vehicles like F1 in schools, like Vex Robotics, that they can engage with, and those organisations will definitely help, and you can then build that positive relationship between the business and the school, and that's going to be of value to that business going forward, because that's where their future workforce is going to come from. I appreciate an awful lot of our manufacturing is made up of SMEs, and they're probably all very busy, and they're probably all thinking, I haven't got time to do this. But ultimately, if they don't do it, at some point they're going to have bigger problems to face. So it's worth a little bit of time every week just to address them. And I think that's one of the messages we need to get out there, is encourage all those businesses to engage with their local schools.
Thank you. Well, obviously, what role do you think educators play in attracting young people, or of all ages?
Yeah, I think certainly what Ollie mentioned, I think there's some really great initiatives out there, certainly at school level. To my mind, one of the biggest mistakes we made in this country was trying to get rid of the polytechnics. I think the polytechnics provided that link for people who were less academic, but there was a route through from higher technician level right all the way up to graduate level. And I think we lost that less academic route into senior engineering careers. I think the system always heals itself to a degree, and I think that's happening with the apprenticeships, which I think are a really good idea. The sort of technician apprenticeships leading to level 6 to level 7, that things heal themselves, so I'm optimistic in that respect. But I think we need to think more about a connected education system for those who aren't necessarily going to say, go and do the academic route. So I think, let's try and be optimistic about the future. There's some good things happening, and we as educators, it's our responsibility to carry it off and deliver it, but we need help from you guys as well.
Do you think that parents have a role to play, that changing attitudes of parents, that your parents want their kids to go to university and do a white collar job rather than, oh, it's a bit of a shame he's doing an apprenticeship in engineering.
Yes, I think there is an element of that. It's interesting. I don't know if anyone was in the car travelling on Friday morning and switched on the radio. It was Desert Island Discs, and there was a lady on it who, I think they said that she's now the CEO of a co-op, but she was talking about choosing her degree course as a child and how she upset her parents because she did accountancy. And in their eyes, in a lot of Middle Eastern countries, the only degrees worth doing were engineering and medicine. I couldn't imagine a British parent saying that today, which is unfortunate. So, yeah, I think there is pressure. It's also interesting. It is a British thing, and again, this is sort of it's a popular thing. But I remember when I was lecturing at the University of Nottingham, the UK students all wanted to do management projects because they were going to be managers. They didn't want to get involved in the technical stuff. They were going to be managers. The overseas students, they wanted to do technical projects because they were going to be managers. And when they were managers, they needed to understand what the technical people were doing. So it's a different mindset, and it's how can we, as parents, future parents, encourage that attitude among children. I think it's quite difficult too because it seems very ingrained in British society and attitudes to trade. So I think there are some barriers to work through, and I don't have an easy answer, unfortunately.
Okay, no. Sorry about that. No easy answer. So what can individual SMEs do to attract skilled people into their businesses? On the basis that, as you were saying, everyone's busy, they've got 58 jobs already each, they haven't got a department for this or a department for that or whatever. But what is the one thing, is it the engagement, is it the getting local people in, or reskilling their own workforces? What difference do you think that makes? I'm going to go to the other Mike as well. There he is. So.
I think it's a mixture. I think they do have to reskill their own workforce, fact, because they should be investing in people. But again, I do think they need to be attracting people in, and SMEs have some. And I've worked for SMEs, I've worked for very large companies, and I've worked for very small companies, and each has its unique kind of benefits. What I found at the smaller companies was you've got much better chance of implementing things and making a difference that you can see. And I think by kind of encouraging people to come in to be innovative and giving them a bit of free rein, but also giving them that loyalty, making things like a nice place to work, giving them that freedom around flexible working and things like that, all within things, is all within the right to give from an SME. So to me, it's about attracting. But if you can attract somebody locally, they are more likely to stay with you. So again, that partnership piece, working with people from being at school, coming through college, so they know I've got a good opportunity to come and work for you. So bring them through, I think, is the key thing for me. But I think SMEs, we've got 70% of the businesses in the UK are SMEs, offer a hell of a lot. I don't think we get enough chance to maybe go out there and tell people, and we can only do that by getting in front of younger people and telling them and engage them. So that would be my ask.
Okay, and maybe career path is important as well. Young people today want to know where they're going to be tomorrow, in 5 years or whatever, and talking to them about that it's not just, as Oliver said earlier, it's not just you start off as a welder, you end as a welder, you're going to be able to progress through a business. Mike Wilson, have you got anything to say about SMEs? Obviously, we talked about Jonathan.
SMEs are obviously important. They're a very significant element of our manufacturing. We need them to be successful. I think it's also important that the larger businesses also recognise that, because they form the supply chain to those larger businesses. And the larger businesses do have the resources and do have the expertise. So there needs to be maybe some of those larger businesses, and some of them are, but more reaching out into their supply chains to help those supply chains get better, get stronger, and do some of the things that need to be done. Ultimately, it's a big challenge. There's lots to do. And I think a lot of people just get put off by the fact that there's too much to do. We're too busy, we just can't start. And most of the time, it really is just about starting. making that initial contact, reaching out to the local school, whatever it might be, reaching out to the local college, just to make that start and get engaged, because once you've started, it can grow from there. So there are things like Make UK. I can't remember the date they do it on, but I think it's September. They have a manufacturing day where lots of businesses open up their facilities to allow people to come and have a look. So if SMEs are wondering about whether they should get engaged with these kind of things, maybe that's a place to start. Reach out to your local Make UK organisation and see if you can participate in that event, because ultimately it is just about starting.
Sure, and certainly changing attitudes as well, isn't it? So SMEs are not always great at asking for help. They just not always, that's not their go-to all the time, is it? Oliver, what do you think about SMEs? How we're going to make things easier for them?
Now, I think Mark's point there about collaboration is really, really important. I think changing the culture is going to be extremely difficult. But like Mike Wilson says there, you've got to start, yeah. And changing culture in the UK in terms of automation adoption is the big first step we need to make. As Mike says, you've got to start somewhere. So that really is the first step. Let's try and start changing culture to ensure that automation adoption is really on the tip of everyone's tongues when we're looking for growing your business.
Thank you. So, Chris, how easy is it then for an SME to think, oh, should I talk to the MTC? Are they too big for me? Should I get in touch? Or
No, absolutely, they should get in touch. I mean, we're very proud to be supported by Lloyds Bank, who help us with our SMEs in terms of providing some salary support for those that maybe haven't taken their apprentice on previously, or just need a bit of extra financial support to grow their work base. And that's seen some fantastic successes in terms of us working with small businesses that maybe haven't taken an apprentice in the past, but have used those apprentices that have now kind of come in with some really great innovative ideas and helping drive the business forward. And I think the key thing is to open up that dialogue, have those conversations, try and find out what support is available and what's involved in the apprenticeship program, because also we do a lot of the recruitment at the front end. So the work involved for a lot of the SMEs initially is very, very small, because we do all the assessments and then all they need to do is interview them, take the one that they want to take on, and let us do the rest, and then they get back a good person that wants to work and wants to develop, and that can only be a good thing.
thank you. And in terms of education, then,
I think particularly when you're dealing with SMEs and companies in general, we need a value model for education. I think education is often seen as a cost, whereas actually in reality it's a value-adding activity. So it's how do we get that message across to people who are often running very tight margins, under a lot of pressure, never enough people, but how can we get that message across that education is a value-adding activity?
in terms of value added, but you've got a degree course now in robotics and
We have indeed, yes.
that's time for your plug.
My plug,
Come on,
okay.
Colin.
So if you'd like to go to the stand at some point, it's Gilbert and Rebecca from Cranfield who are there here to introduce our level 6 apprenticeship in robotics, and Gilbert will be on this stage this afternoon giving an overview of it. So again, this is a way of drawing down apprenticeship levy money and actually tailored and very industry facing as well, education in robotics. So please do go and see Gilbert and Rebecca if you're passing the stand.
So would you invite more people to get in touch with Cranfield in terms of support they could give you?
Absolutely. I mean, the level 6 apprenticeship is run through MKU, which is, if you like, our undergraduate branch now of Cranfield. So we do have the laws interested in talking about the master's level, and we are doing the level 7 apprenticeship, which we're hoping to launch in the next couple of years. But certainly for sort of on-the-job training and apprenticeships, then it's through MKU. But, please do come and talk to us.
Okay, so I'm just giving you a warning now. We're coming towards the end of the session, so I'm looking forward to some expert questions coming our way if we haven't covered anything that you'd like to hear about. But as we come to the end, I'm going to ask the panel what their main piece of advice would you offer to manufacturers on how they are going to bridge this skills gap, that one piece that you go, or if you could just do this, or if you could just do that. And I'm going to start with the other mic divine.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to repeat what I've said, what Oliver's said. I think people need to look at how they're going to adopt automation to be more efficient, more productive, and increase quality. And they're going to need the workforce to take that on. So they've got to look at getting on a much diverse set of people and being a little bit more open to who they think would be a good fit for them.
Thank you, Oliver.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay, excellent.
I think I can add that understanding that long-term strategy for your business is definitely important. Understanding what culture you need to build internally around automation adoption will be vitally important, so that actually it's a success in the longer term.
Thank you. Chris?
For me, there is no silver bullet. I think we can all learn from each other. So larger organisations try and work with supply chains, try and work with local SMEs to help them with their adoption, and work with the likes of the MTC or other local specialist colleges to bring through the colleagues of the future and the expertise in your business to increase innovation.
Thank you, Mike.
It's probably not going to be as expensive or as complicated as you think it's going to be if you've never done automation before. But if you're insurer and you really don't want to go and talk to the supply chain with due apologies because you're worried that they're going to try and sell you something, then go and talk to somebody independent and just get some independent advice first, just to check out where the right place to start is. And don't always go for the biggest challenge that you've got, because it's often the biggest challenge because it's the most difficult thing in the factory to do, and therefore it'll be the most difficult thing to automate. Find something simple and easy first, and therefore start simple, build your expertise up, develop the workforce in parallel with that, go from there. But if you're unsure, get some independent advice.
Thank you. Phil?
Yeah, I only agree with everything that the panel said, but also to remember that one of the key enablers is education, and it's building those skill sets within your own companies and workplaces, and you need the knowledge in-house to do that successfully. Obviously there's plenty of people here who can help you, but having that internal expertise is invaluable, and whatever form it is, again to reiterate what I said, education is always value adding.
Thank you. I mean, I remember the times where I used to go to an exhibition and exhibitors, the last thing they wanted was a bloody student on their stand. They just took all the leaflets and they went home and they never saw them again, and they just cluttered up the stand. I wanted to be selling stuff. I don't want to talk to these young kids. I think things are changing. There's loads more students around. They Automate UK do lots of apprenticeships, as does all of the trade associations can really help. So any questions from the audience at all? Or have they just been so brilliant, you've just been stunned into absolute silence? Oh, no, you haven't. So, yes, what can... Thanks again.
Thank you. I was just wondering how SMEs could benefit from sort of local best practice networking events, whether it's for robotic and automation adoption or the skills challenges. So the businesses, predominantly the larger ones, but other SMEs that have already sort of been on this journey, have got so much sort of knowledge and wins and challenges that they can share with other businesses in their local community. Is there a formal network, or is there anything in place where companies can come together and learn from other businesses that have actually walked the walk?
Well, I'll come to the panel. I'm going to talk to him. Mike Wilson.
So we, specifically for robotics automation, in May we launched what we called the West Midlands Robotics Autonomous Systems Cluster, and the whole purpose of that is twofold. Firstly, it's about ensuring that we can connect the work that the universities are doing in terms of both education and also technology development. with industry to make sure that they're addressing the right challenges. And secondly, we can help with the adoption challenge. So we can provide a vehicle whereby businesses can network, can talk to each other. So we've set that up specifically for the West Midlands, and we've only just created it, so we're in the early stages of bringing all that together. But you can also reach out to, through Automate UK, to Bara, for example, who do run events around the country. You can also reach out to Make UK, who also do networking events. So there's actually quite a lot of different places you could go to get connection with people that have done it before. And if you don't know where to go, then please reach out to us, because we will connect you.
Anyone else want to answer this at all? No? I think you have done that, Mike. Anything else before we let you go back to your buying automation or selling it? I'd just like to say thank you very much to the panel for giving up their time to come to see us. The other Mike is also starring, I think, soon in Key Bikes.
12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. There's another plug. Honestly, I'm all over it today. But thank you for giving up your time to come to see us. I'm going to give a plug for the UK Automation Forum. We have a website. You can get a link from Automate UK website if you'd like. What we've got on there are either videos, or we always write a white paper with learnings from each event. So you might pick up some little nuggets there that you might think, oh, that's going to help me. But in the meantime, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.